Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and I'm here, of course, with economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen, and we are going to talk about Argentina. This has been long awaited. So, John, go into a bit about what's going on there, because it's pretty much insanity, monetary insanity.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Argentina is one of those examples. Like we just did a video on Angola that you might want to see as well, where it's kind of a monetary insanity that they had there as well, but not as bad as in Argentina. Argentina is known for horrible management of their fiat currencies and complete destruction of them quite quickly. So
management is a key word there.
Yeah, management is a key word, and actually the reason why we're talking about this is because I read an article from the Jurist just recently. The former Argentinian president charged for manipulating the dollar market, and it was Cristina Fernandez, the Kirchner, which was charged with manipulating the economy in order to resolve the country's low foreign reserves. So she was actually manipulating the markets in Argentina in order to get her way with spending money and so on. But we're gonna go into the history of Argentina, and we're gonna have a little bit of a fun time.
Let's go for it.
So, Argentinian peso has been actually the peso, if you can call it. Like it's been around for a while. It's been since 1914, kind of off and on. I would say like in its current form, like it's not been around for very long, since maybe 2001, since they devalued it last. Well, actually, it got devalued in 2015, just recently. But I'm going to go through a little bit of a history of inflation in Argentina from the 1914s.
Excellent.
Now, when it was created in 1914, not too much happened. It was around 2.36 pesos to a dollar. And it was quite stable all the way until the 40s. So in 48 to 57, the inflation in those 9 years was 1,000%. So that's almost an average of 100% every year in inflation. That's actually quite substantial.
To say the least, that's insane.
Yeah, because when you get paid, if you don't get a raise of doubling your income every year, you're fucked.
Yeah, absolutely fucked.
And from 57 to 66, they had 675, which is still extremely high, and it's a very high inflation that still is very horrible for your income. If your economy doesn't grow 675% and your income doesn't grow 675%, now you lost a lot of money. They've been ridden with this inflation, and people, started at first, didn't really think too much about it, but then it became too obvious, and people have really started to get angry. In 69, 70s, this was the first big devaluation. It went from 352 pesos to a dollar down to 3.49. That was a massive devaluation. We're looking at about 80-90% devaluation right there. And then they, of course, from the 70s to 83, from 1970 to 1983, that's 13 years, a little bit longer what we said on the first, but it was 28.223 million% in inflation. The numbers just really
keep
go
printing away, guys. Keep printing away.
In 85, they devalued from 673 units to a dollar to 0.85 to a dollar. Massive devaluation, way higher than the one in the in 69, 70. Then, of course, in 83, you had a massive devaluation. It was from 98,500 to 11.50. So that was the exchange rate that it went from. Which is a massive devaluation again. Then, of course, in 83, to 91, it was $129 million. Then in 2001 to 2002, they had a devaluation from 3.85 to 0.99. So that's almost 400% devaluation, like 400% lower. The value. And then in 2001 to 2002, that percentage, looked at it, it was almost 400% inflation over 2 years. That's 200. So we got a triple. You have to increase your salary 2 times of what you had. So 200% increase in salary if you're gonna withstand it. And then from 2011 till 2016, 346%. Now, this is a country that's just ridden with horrible mismanagement of money. And I want to tell you a story that I actually sat down with an individual that approached me when I said that I was a monetary historian. And he said, well, I'm from Argentina. I want to tell you a story. I want, to how it was in Argentina.
And I'm sure he has many stories being from Argentina, to say the least.
And in 2001, he at first started with that by telling me the story in the 80s, in 83, from his dad. He had money in the bank.
Yeah. And
what happened overnight, they had a bank vacation, like how they have bank holidays. Yeah. And then suddenly overnight, his dad lost 75% of all of his life savings. Oh, and he was ruined.
It's horrible.
Yeah, and he was suddenly poor. Now, this guy, I'm not going to say his name because he actually didn't want to tell me his name, I guess for safety. Who knows what the local government always does to their people.
It's hard to say,
out.
Yeah.
So, but I want to tell you a story about that. He told me about, he put actually money into Citibank in Argentina in US dollars. Now, what happened was what they did during the devaluation in 2001, he thought he'd outsmarten them by putting it in US dollars. Yeah. The problem was Citibank was, of course, Argentinian owned. At the time, the people who owned it was registered in Argentina. So what they did, they took his US dollars, converted into Argentinian pesos, and then they stole 75% again from him. He thought he'd outsmarten it. No, he definitely didn't, and
apparently not.
It was all lost. His money again, 75%. So he said, "Enough is enough. I'm leaving the country," and he went to Winnipeg, Manitoba, with a whole bunch of other people that left at the same time. Now, he had an interesting story to tell in 2001. The people were so fed up with the government that they actually used a blow-up dick, and they used it as a ram to try to get into a government building. We're actually going to post you that picture. You're going to see that picture when we show it to you.
That's
pretty
one way
hilarious.
of putting it. Yeah. I mean,
he actually told me it was very hard to find it, but he had to write it in Argentinian, and then it actually popped up as a picture, and it's ridiculous. I'll have show the viewers that because it's so funny. And
viewer discretion, folks.
But it was funny, but it was horrible because people were so pissed off that they did something like that, just to show how frustrated we were with the stupid government in Argentina. Now we're going to look at some current numbers in Argentina, and I think they're going to do the same mistake again.
Well, of course they are. This seem to be in a pattern here.
We're looking at there's 5 times they devalued since 1914 massively, and the central bank actually, I believe it's been propping up money right now, and it's increased its balance sheet for 2011 at $500 billion to $2 trillion. So that's the amount of securities that they bought over that time, and that's 4 times increase over only 5 years, which is quite insane. They currently pay an interest rate of 36% because they actually defaulted back in for about 14 years ago. They defaulted on some debt, and this is an interesting story. We're going to just quickly go back to this story, and it'll bring you to where it currently is at, because they had, in 2001, they defaulted on a whole bunch of sovereign debt. It was the biggest sovereign default in history at the time. I think it was almost $100 billion in total. Most of the money is lost. It was never paid back because it was their own people that borrowed that money. Well, $4.65 billion is getting now paid back to creditors because hedge fund made a horrible bet and were stupid and actually bought Argentinian debt at the time. And they actually tried several things. They even tried to have the United States withhold a battleship that the Argentinian army owned in the United States when it was there as collateral to try to pay off the debt that they had. It's quite an insane story that you should look into. It just baffles your mind. But of course, it was the hedge fund that got the money and not all the other creditors. They're local people that lost their fortunes and their wealth in that wealth transfer when that debt collapsed. Currently, they also have, it says 5.9% unemployment, but then listen, they got a labor participation rate of 44.8%. So where is that? There's a lot of talk about this because that unemployment rate doesn't account for anymore for people that haven't looked for work for a long time. and it just literally takes them out of the picture, and they're not unemployed anymore because they've been looking for work for so long.
No, yeah,
so
exactly.
like they have the official numbers 5.9, but when you look at the worker participation, it's 44.8. It's a massive government there, of course, so that has actually nothing to do with it because they count government employees in there. But it's 44.8, so like it's 55.2% of the population is not working currently that are working age individuals. Think about that. That's a huge number.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, and you know, it just comes back to the monetary insanity of these people. And I was looking at the current credit rating. It's like I think the third lowest in the world right now. Nobody would really want, like they actually paid off some of that debt that we were talking about there in order for them to issue. They were looking at issuing, this is an interesting story. So they were looking at actually the reason why they paid down that debt was to issue some more debt. And the finance minister, Alfonso Prat Gay, said he hoped to issue 2 or 3 new sovereign bonds on international markets for a total of $15 billion this April, if lawmakers were swift in backing the accord. So if they actually pay down some of that debt, now they could spend more money and increase their debt burden again. Because governments cannot get enough income through taxation, so they have to go into debt, which they don't even ask their citizens about.
Well, it just seems like the same story over and over again, to more extremes, of course, but trying to use the same solution over and over again, which causes the problem, which leads to another solution, which causes another problem. Hegelian dialectic over and over again. And then, of course, we have government manipulating and monopolizing and creating the problems they strive to solve. And then you end up with these giant central banks as well, that not only is a government imposing their will on people and controlling people like little slaves, but at the same time we have central banks that are creating vast amounts of debt enslavement, forcing people into poverty, and then people think, well, you know what's going to solve this? More central planning and more manipulation, more monopolization, and more control.
Please help me.
And it just goes on over and over again, and it's sickening, because I wish that we could, give you guys like positive financial news, but there is no real positivity to any of the economic news going on in the world.
Because we all have the same stupid system, which is fiat paper money. And
print, devalue, interest.
And as I said, like Argentina is about to make the same mistake again, because the current inflation rate is 40.5%. They actually are number 3 in the world right now in high inflation. So. No, actually number 4 after Suriname that we actually talked about.
Which recently went up since we did that video.
Yeah, exactly. It's gone up about 10 more percent.
To say we told you so, we gotta focus on
And we also did a video on South Sudan, and the South Sudan has actually jumped from, I think it was currently at 200, low 200s, but now it's at 290%.
And people called us crazy. Why am I not surprised? And I like we always say, it's an opinion, but it is factual. Look into it yourself. Heed the warning, because this stuff is happening all over the world. This is not just a global issue, it's a globalist issue. There are globalists striving to create debt enslavement across the planet, and this is just one of many examples of how the central bankers, the central planners, the money manipulators, the government coercive fools that are trying to basically control people into servitude. This is happening everywhere. This is one piece of it, and it's so sad to talk about, but it needs to be talked about, and people need to do something. People need to rise up. People need to stop this nonsense that we see in Venezuela and Argentina, and things that we've seen over and over again in Zimbabwe and Angola. I mean, it just goes on and on. We're seeing it here in Canada too, and we're seeing it in the United States. Let's put an end to this nonsense. Let's stand up and ask for freedom, not control. Control only monopolizes and creates the problems that people keep saying are the fault of the free individuals, which is just nonsense. Capitalism doesn't exist in its true form. It can't with the manipulation that we have today and the monopolization by the hand of government. So let's seriously heed the warning. Thank you, John. What's the bottom line here? Quickly.
Well, it's time to wake up. And we got to stop this, because like Argentina, I don't know how like the people that are left in Argentina actually want to let this happen again, because like their government is abusing them. It might not be physically, but it's definitely mentally, and it's destroying.
It is a form of abuse.
It's destroying the people. People are committing suicide. Actually, with fiat currencies, I of course you can't run the stats because it's hard to see like overall like how many people get killed and suicide themselves, and how much criminal activity gets created from this fiat currency when it demises, and then people getting killed. But I think the fiat currency system in its current form with the fractional reserve banking is a breach to any human rights that we should have, and individual rights.
Absolutely.
It's just a massive, corrupt, fraudulent system that any elites love to use because they could just spend your wealth away and destroy your wealth because you transfer your wealth, and you have to use your wealth in your local currency.
Absolutely. We need to end this nonsense. Thank you, John. We need to keep working on this, and we need to free ourselves, free the markets, free the individual. That's most important to all of us, because that's humanity itself, being free. Thank you, John. This is Josh Sigurdson, John Sneisen, signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth,
Be the change.